Chris Duffin and Stan Efferding, and we're going to talk about the guns, biceps. Actually, a little bit more about just general arm, elbow, and shoulder health. So in the powerlifting or strength training communities, both of us have seen some similar things happen where people, they're not engaging in bicep work, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and we'll talk about that, but they get in a position where they're never supinating. And this ends up causing some problems. Over time, it could lead to elbow issues, bicep problems, and it can lead actually into shoulder problems as well. Okay. So Stan, you've got a pretty unique approach to this because you're not doing a whole lot of specific arm exercises despite your massive arms, right? So how are you doing this?
Well, and I'll talk about a lot of things at once. I'll try and join them all together. One of the important things to remember is that you're going to get the biggest return on your time invested in the gym from doing multi-joint exercises. The big stuff, the rowing movements, the chin movements, as opposed to the isolation exercises. And I know people think that if they go to the dumbbell rack and do isolation bicep exercises, they're focusing on the bicep. But it's not nearly as beneficial as doing a major exercise, like a pull-up or a bent row, where you're utilizing more weight and utilizing more joints in the movement. I'll give you an example. Some of the guys with the biggest arms who never do curls, it's like Mark Philippi, the pro strongman. Derek Poundstone, when he was competing in monstrous arms, and Derek Poundstone wasn't in there doing bicep curls. He's not a bodybuilder. They were doing rope pulls, supinated.
But that's it. They've got to be in this position here.
They're doing rope pulls, and that's how they created those massive arms. And it wasn't from doing a bunch of bicep curls. Now, as a bodybuilder powerlifter, I've got to do some bicep and tricep work. But the way I do that is I supinate my hands on all of my rowing movements to get my bicep involved in the movement. So anytime I'm doing, say, a bent row or even a long pulley row, I won't use the handle in this position. It's a brachialis position, and again, I'll supinate and try and get more bicep involved. So here, anytime I'm doing a row, I'll row here and do the bent rows. Now I can utilize a lot more weight. You see guys doing 400-pound bent rows, but I won't do the overhand. I'll do the underhand because I want to benefit from.
Now I'm known for doing really large, heavy bent over rows overhand.
Yeah.
But people don't realize if they don't read my training log, at the end of it, I drop down and I drop the weight and I do two supinated grips for higher reps. All the time.
And you can strap into a supinated exercise if you can't hold as well. You can use the straps there, same as the over. Another one is just to do instead of doing a wide grip stuff on the lat pull down machine, is to use the supinated grip again with a more shoulder width grip. Same on chins. And I love these because again, it's such a challenging exercise that you're getting so much more benefit metabolically, stimulating more muscle tissue, the core work that we talked about. So if you do an hour of training and you're utilizing these kinds of exercise, obviously you're going to burn a whole lot more calories than if you're doing isolation exercises. So you supinate here, now the biceps are involved in the movement, as opposed to here. So you get better bang for your buck. I'll talk about a recent study, and some people might find this somewhat crazy or somewhat controversial, but a recent study showed where they took two groups. They had one group just do supinated back exercises, long pulley rows, chins, stuff that activates the bicep as part of a multi-joint movement. They took the other group and they had them do regular back exercises, same exercises, and then they had them finish with a whole series of direct isolation bicep work, curls, all kinds of different curl exercises. And after 8 or 10 weeks, both groups showed the same muscle growth for the biceps, the same response to the stimulus. Eddie Cohn used to say they're just like Christmas tree ornaments, and he wouldn't train biceps. But even for bodybuilding, I'm saying that you can get the same benefit from supinating your major rowing exercises, chins and bent over rows and long pulley rows, as you can from doing a whole series of all this bicep work. The benefit to that is, without doing all that accessory work, you've drastically decreased the amount of repetitive strain on those joints. It's not just heavy weights that cause joint problems and tendon problems. It's the repetitive strain. That's where people generally get injured. When somebody tears something, it's generally not on their max effort. It's on their downset on the way back. And so consider that it could be even detrimental to spend that many reps and sets doing what I think is kind of superfluous work when you could have just gotten a greater benefit from the major exercises. I'm a big fan of the majors, obviously.
So thanks, Dan. This is a really great discussion on ways to improve arm, elbow health. and actually deal with issues that are developed in powerlifting, and at the same time actually deal with, like, you know, somebody that's looking from a cosmetic or bodybuilding-ish approach as well for developing size of the arms.
Yeah.
And obviously translates really well over to other sports like strongman
And real quick, while we're talking about arms, triceps too. If you're done with benching, just bring your grip in just a little and do a 2-board press for triceps, because it's way more effective in terms of building mass than going over and doing a whole bunch of cable pushdown stuff. It just doesn't make sense to me. So stick with the majors, stick with the big weights, the multi-joint movements, and I think you'll get all the arm size that you want.
Thank you, Stan.
Yeah.